now it's time to take the rear diff out. You don't need to remove the rear shocks. You need to undo this screw, this screw, this screw, this screw on the top of the gearbox, similar to the front gearbox, and you have to move 2 screws here. Then you will need to get a 1.5mm driver. You need to undo these collets on the end so you can pull the suspension pins out. So in the screws with a screwdriver first, or if you've only got a screwdriver then just undo them. One's at the bottom as well, if they're quite tight, so you need a bit of a force. And if you have the luxury of an electric screwdriver, take just the 2 screws out of there, which is holding the suspension holder on. Then remove the 2 long screws with the suspension holder on. And then the 2 top ones, the gearbox. The longer one holds the rear suspension plate on at the bottom, and the top one holds the gearbox on, so make sure you don't get them run the wrong way when you put back together. Then you get your 1.5 driver, as I explained, to undo the collets at the back. Just loosen them off, and you should be able to pull the suspension pins out. There we go, a bit of a force, but both pins come out and the collets will fall back in. There's your collet with the 1.5 set screw in there that holds them on the pin. So this basically goes through the suspension arms and then holds on there. Then expose your diff. As you can see, the diff's in there. You take that out the same as you would the front diff, as we explained. With this one, it hasn't got UJs in the back, so you'll have to take the drive shafts out. As you can see, the diff is exactly the same as the front one, but we'll clean that out and we'll put 3000 silicone oil in. Then you line the hole up with your diff cup through there, put your O-ring on, make sure that sits nicely in the cup. Just push very nicely, just enough. Then find your hole cut out and put your pin back in, using your pliers, find the hole, you should slide it in place, make sure it's in the centre, and place your turn gear. Make sure it sits in the back of the screw. You can make sure the pin sits evenly in the screw, and you sit flat. So you'll feel it if you hold your finger and around, it should spin around to force so you can feel the resistance of your finger. And we'll put 3000 silicone oil in. Just push that so the screw is flush, not too far in, because it'll touch the gears from the inside otherwise. So once that's in, fill it up, just a little bit more than that, just a little bit above halfway, that's all you'll need. So making sure you've got both your washers on the side, just give us a good pinch on the diff gear so there's no movement, and then place your gear on the top. Make sure it spins nicely around, which it will do. Then you're ready to grease your other diff cup. Just put some grease on there. Put the O-ring out at the moment, so push in that way, that's it, just spin it around a bit. You can see it's nicely flowed the grease on there, and spin it around the other way. You can see there's a good dripping grease in the groove of the dry cup. So place your bearing, just snap, press on like that, just nicely fit. Then you drive through, your O-ring, back on, your pin, your pliers, very carefully back up, catch the O-ring, and chip it out. Make sure it's in the centre, you can see that there's a straight line where your pin goes. So if you line it up with your 4 holes, the same, it'll be easy to fit. Just turn around, straight around, and your gasket on top. Make sure it lines up with the holes, and just straight down on that, and just fit. It's gone down evenly. You want to see it's gone flat here, then you need to line the holes up with your gasket. So you use a small screwdriver, make sure that the holes are lined up, so you can see the threads. And then you get the screws, you use a screwdriver, just snip it up. So then jig screwdriver, just do it nice and flat, just do it up here. Never wait so that you tighten this one up, then across to that way, then across to this one, and then that one, that one, that one, that one. Otherwise it'll get uneven, so you get wobble like that. Then across to the other side, you do it like this, otherwise you'll tighten one end, tighten the other. Then you go across to that one, and then across to the final one. And once you've got that, just dent it tight, each one, that feel tight, and then check that you get a nice rotation of the diff. And then put your machine back on, the gear side, so that it goes to the gearbox, that will push this way, and then you'll get a nice mixture of your pinion gear and gearbox. So we've rebuilt the diff. Take your grease and place a nice layer of grease on the gears, so it's nicely coated, so you get smooth running of the gears and not too much wear. Then, as you did with the front one, you look for the groove in the back of the gearbox, and you need to put your drive shafts in. So you got drive shafts back in. Place the first drive shaft in, and the second one in. Pop the diff in there, make sure that you get the shim in nicely so it seats in, and
gearbox housing back on. That'll hold the diff safely in there now, so it shouldn't fall out. Then you need to, with both pins, line the pins up into the wishbones. So if you push the suspension holder in, get that in place so the pins are just slightly sticking out. Put the long screws that I explained, make sure they're the longest ones that you've got to go in the bottom. Just nip them up. So once you've got your back suspension holder screwed in, just tighten up with a screwdriver and then get your collet, hold it into place with your 1.5 driver, thread it in between the gearbox and the engine and then push through. Then gently do the 1.5 driver up on the collet and the collet stays on. Get the collet, which is here. If you push the pin forward, you should go through to the collet and just do the collet up, and you've got that nicely done on there. So you can do your screws up on the bottom of the suspension holder now, which is the shortest screws out of the lot for the bottom here. So just put them in by hand, use your electric screw if you've got one. So nip that one up, same with this one. Make sure they're nice and tight with the main screwdriver. Then your two gearbox ones at the top. Do these up, don't over tighten. And there you have all the rear diff done and back into place. Hope you enjoyed this video explaining how to do the diffs with the diff oils, and I hope you enjoyed it, and please subscribe.